Hey everybody, Eric Westreich with Aquilius. We're excited today to have Jacob Hirsch, who's the Senior Manager of Business Development and Partnership at Arete. Hopefully I said that right, Biosciences. Did I get that right?
You nailed it. Yeah, it's a tough one. People, probably our most common question we get is, how do you say your name?
Very good. Make it difficult so that
Yeah,
people have that's
you have to remember us then, right?
yeah. That's a company that you helped start, you helped co-found. So where did this journey into biosciences start? Was this just something you kind of went through school and kind of this looked interesting, or did you have one of those moments where you suddenly realized that, wow, this stuff is cool. I want to be part of that. How did your journey in biosciences start?
Yeah, it did actually start in academia. When I first enrolled in university, my initial draw was to actually do the pre-med track and go and become a doctor. I have a couple of doctors in my family, and that was really what I was excited about. But at my university, which is the University of San Diego, you're allowed to take elective classes outside of your kind of predisposed path. And I'd always been interested in engineering, and I thought it would be fun to just take a course on engineering, but still had the back of the head motivation to do the pre med thing. And in that engineering course, I fell in love with it. And my professor actually sort of laid out to me how much interaction the engineering world has with the med device and biotech worlds. And that kind of was the spark for me that got me excited about I can still have an involvement in an industry that really helps people, but I can also pursue this engineering passion that I've recently fostered through this just intro to engineering course. You do simple things like building Legos and, making a straw house that has to hold 10 pounds and things like that. And my brain just kind of naturally was attracted to it. And when I found out that I could kind of merge the two worlds, I pivoted my degree to get a degree in mechanical engineering, but then I also maintained my biology courses so that I could still have an emphasis in biology. So that was the kind of Kickstarter to my engineering career, was actually in university.
I also started in the university as an engineer and did get a couple engineering degrees out of it in mechanical engineering. So
Yeah, and the fun thing about mechanical engineering is, it's such a wide open field. You can go into med tech, you can go into aerospace, you can go into HVAC. There's, so much opportunity in the mechanical engineering world. So I really felt like it opened my possibilities up to kind of do so many different things.
well, Jacob, I what I liked is you could see and feel it. When
Yeah,
someone talked about something, like you wrote something on a board, you could go see it in action. You could see waves and
yeah, exactly. I mean,
fluids
it's
and
and I really found a knack for visualizing engineering. I think that's a really important characteristic in a good kind of design engineer, is being able to kind of visualize what is happening in the design that you're pursuing. And I felt that I really had a knack for that, specifically around fluidics, which is actually how I got into this world of microfluidics, which is what I'll be speaking to.
but where did you find fluidics? So we understand engineering part. There's lots of different kinds of engineering. You take bizarre stuff, everything from soils and materials to, you know,
Yeah, all over the place, structural
quantum
engineering.
physics and
Yeah.
superstring theory if you want. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty wide open. So how did you come into this fluidics?
Yeah, so I mean, again, it was one of the courses that we were required to take, was an introduction to fluidics. Fluid dynamics was the course name, and I had an amazing professor, Dr. Khalil, who she was amazing, and I think she's the head of engineering now at USD. And she just really resonated with me, and just the study of differential pressures in a tube and how it can relate to displacements, all of it just really resonated with me in such a way that I just felt really, just gravitated towards it. And again, that visualization factor of it, when she was describing an equation, I always felt like I could see how the fluid was behaving in my head. And it helped me kind of understand and problem solve, even though I had to, do a proof on Bernoulli's equation, I, almost could kind of see the way it was functioning in my head, which is always an easier way to approach engineering than, mathematically. So
Right.
was really, really
I,
drawn to it. And then
I
I took a
agree.
course on microfluidics.
Start off like even things like electronics and computer science was like, I can't see that. But after a while, when I learned, to map that into how you could see and feel, what's happening in a chip, in this case, a small microfluidic chip for you. It made a big difference to me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you took this fluidics class, you've got engineering fluidics. What uh where'd you go from there? What was your next big step?
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, that your first job out of college isn't always the job you dreamed of. But I was working in the spinal industry actually, so more of like the biomechanics was really my strength in that first role out of college. And for those that are listening or that are familiar with the spinal implants, that kind of industry is very heavy regulated. So a lot of red tape in your way as far as trying to work through problems on whether it's on the manufacturing line or field failures or whatever it might be. Making a small change took months and months and months of approvals and regulation and et cetera. And I was more excited about the engineering, like the R&D side of things, making quick on the fly decisions and making changes, without having to go through all these hoops. And so I remembered my attraction to fluidics, and my next job after that industry job was to get involved with a consulting agency designing microfluidic consumables. And I knew nothing about it. I didn't really even know what I was applying for, but I ended up getting that job and fell in love with the world of designing, diagnostic consumables, whether that be wearables, whether that be handheld devices, companion diagnostic systems, a whole myriad of technologies I got the opportunity to work on.
Well, and of course, as we know, one of the biggest challenges is early detection.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean, so many things that if you detect early are easy. If you wait, especially things like cancer, survival rate goes from like 80 to 90% or better to less than 20%
absolutely,
really
absolutely.
quickly. So the idea that we get this early detection and not just catastrophic, but just the ability to tweak and
Yeah,
stay healthy or just to get wellness. Otherwise, it's like driving a car and never going to get it serviced. And then,
exactly.
it breaks and then they say, oh,
If you had come in, 5 years ago and gotten your brake pads changed, you might be in a different situation here. But yeah, exactly. That's
right,
exactly
your water heater just broke through because you never did
it.
stale check. Your transmission is dead. Your engine died because it wasn't running. So this idea of being able to not only early detect problems, but to tweak and tune is a big difference. So obviously you've got engineering, you've got something you love. Why the heck would you co-found a company? Why would you do that? I mean, you've got a nice gig going, you've got something people will pay for. Sounds like you love your job. Why do you need to found a company?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story in that the position that I held before Arete, we were an organization that really focused on just the consumable portion of the whole platform. And what I was finding in a lot of my work was, we were given a set of requirements based on a fluidic standards to say, get fluid from point A to point B. That's your requirements. You solve that. You give us the consumable. We'll do the rest. And we weren't asking questions about how the chemistry worked. We weren't asking questions about how it was going to interface with the instrument. We weren't really focused on anything other than meet the requirements and deliver the consumable to the client. And most of those products were not finding success because once you integrated the entire system together, there was all these gaps that weren't addressed early on. And a lot of these clients had already used up most of their funding. They weren't prepared to do big changes, and a lot of those products fizzled out. And I was, pretty frustrated with that. And back in 2020, the world was changing with COVID, and there was kind of a opportunity to think about the way you do business differently because everyone was going back to their homes, et cetera, et cetera. And I met with the original founder of Arete, Sam Pickerel, who was interested in growing this organization into something that really integrated seamlessly across all of the aspects of development. And this resonated with me tremendously. And I just got so excited about the idea that I pretty much immediately handed in my 2-week notice to my old company and said, Sam, let's do this. Let's build a development company that really focuses on integrating seamlessly across all the development.
So basically, it's your engineering personality, a desire to do holistic problem solving, where you want
Exactly.
things to, you want to solve problems. You don't just want to build something. You want to solve the problem. That's very much like Aquilius does. Aquilius's first job is to make sure people get funded because nobody in this kind of area, I started a software company, so that was pretty easy. We would work at a coffee shop,
Yeah.
somebody donate, write some code, and then we would start getting jobs just so we could keep doing that. So that was easy. But if you need to go build labs or do design or build chips, that's going to take some money. So we realized that funding is one of the big challenges. And then after you're funded, you need the proper resources, both physical and IT. But even if you have the money and the resources, that doesn't mean you have all the knowledge because very few of us are expert at sales, marketing, business development, leadership, culture, training, hiring, data analysis,
Exactly.
clinical design, clinical trial design, all that. So what surprised you as you jumped in this new world from having your world right there you could see, feel, and touch to the fact that all of a sudden now you've got to worry about business development and partnerships. What didn't you know? What surprised you that you needed to know that you didn't realize you were going to have to know?
I think the biggest surprise was just, interpersonal relationships. Having to grow an organization organically with, just two, starting with two members and building a team around basically an unknown question that we're trying to solve, right? We're a service organization, so we don't have a product that we're specifically trying to support. We're trying to support any product that comes in our door. So I think the challenge that I struggled with was, how do you build a team that can quickly flex between different ideas? One day you're working on a molecular diagnostic product that is focusing on a PCR product, and the next you're working on a wearable that's working with drug delivery. Very similar attributes, but totally different market spaces. And so how do you build a team that can flex between all these different ideas?
You've got a culture problem and a hiring problem because you have to
Yeah,
hire the people with that mindset and you have to train all of them to essentially be business development and problem solvers. That doesn't work well for people that are just come in to do this one thing they're really good at. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
and
And there's a lot of client interfacing, right? So you have to be able to communicate with people and, conversations aren't always easy, when you're in this kind of consulting environment. And you need to have a level head and be able to remain calm when situations are stressful and also constantly be coming up with novel new ideas. So it's a unique world to find yourself in. And a lot of the talent pool that we come pull from are from singular companies that have worked on a singular product for 10 plus years, and now they're being asked to do all these managing different hats and different experiences, and it does really have that kind of startup feel to it, right, where we really have had to have individuals that could pivot on a fly and think on their feet and remain calm and push through, and those
but
aren't easy to come by.
you need to have a culture that does that so people know that not only can you do that, but it's expected.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's trickier. I've spent a lot of time doing the business consulting, and we always start with the people first, and from the people build the strategy, and then build the structure, and then build the operations. Most people are stop at the operations, and they don't realize those things are connected. So,
Yeah.
give us an insight into your world. Just one moment of you start this Arete. By the way, where did that name come from?
So it's a Greek word and it means excellence. And really, it actually has a functional term to it. It's the pursuit of excellence. And so when we really want to find that pursuit of continuous pursuit of excellence and recognize that it's a moving target, right? Excellence isn't just achieved, it's kind of pursued. And that's really the kind of mission statement of Verite.
So Arete gets started. Now you're starting to mix with people, these things you hadn't have to do before, multiple challenges. Give us kind of an insight of a moment during all this is going on when you finally felt something had come together. When you go there and it's like, let's go celebrate, have a drink, or hey, I'm really proud we did that. What was one of your first moments when you realized that you were in the right place doing the right thing? And it, among all the things of, oh my God, you had a moment where you go, I feel really good. What was an early moment specifically that you could take us to?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of them, but we had this great relationship with a client that really came to us with just an idea. There was nothing really vetted before, other than kind of a fundamental chemistry that they had been working on. And we were able to basically integrate that team into our organization and almost become part of this company, which was
Give us an idea what kind of idea it was, just so we get some
yeah,
context.
so it's a molecular diagnostic product that does it's a multimodal platform, so it can do basically a wide array of targets as well as working with immunoassays and molecular assays. So it's a pretty powerful system, one of the first of its kind, and it was really an exciting project for us because it was one of the first that we were going to get to take from start to finish. But of course, they had an extremely tight timeline and an extremely low budget in relative terms. But we looked at the problem and we told our team, if we put our heads down and get this done, we could make a real direct impact on the world. And that's a pretty exciting feeling. And we were able to really seamlessly integrate this client almost into our organization to where they felt like they were part of Arete. And we were able to push through what, in my opinion, many companies would have taken 3 years to accomplish. We did it in roughly a year. And we were able to actually send that product to an offsite university, and they tested it with basically against the best systems on the market. And they tested it with blind samples. So the user was untrained, had never seen our system before. They ran it with samples. They didn't know if they were positive, negative, what kind of viral load they had. And we were able to create a system that actually outperformed some of the largest and most expensive systems on the market. And we did it all in a year with a team that, fresh eyes on this, hadn't been thinking about this product for a long time. And, we turned it around in a year and we had a huge success, and it was a great success for us. It was our first end-to-end solution that we actually kind of got through the finish line. And, the team, that was tough. There was weekends and late nights and, learning a lot of things that we hadn't ever thought that we were going to have to do in our lives, but we had to learn them because, we had this deliverable and we really wanted to hit it. And the team just really came together, and there was just this feeling of like, there's no problem we can't solve. And we're going to finish this by the time that they need to. And it was a success, which, they're not always successful, right? I mean, that's product development, sometimes they fly and sometimes they sink, but we, we flew and it was great. And the whole team really put their head down, and I think the relationship that we built with that client too was really amazing. It really felt like we were part of their startup and they were a part of Arete. Like, it was very hand in hand, and luckily it was successful in the end.
So you've had some experience now. Now that you've got those basic things, so they seem a lot easier to do now because you know how
Yeah.
to do it. What's your biggest challenge right now? If you did take the thing that's taking up most of your time, some problem you're trying to solve, what is it?
Yeah, I think it's well, there's always the perception of the market, right? So, specifically and after post COVID, there's a bit of a kind of hesitation in the industry right now around like, do we continue to push this field of diagnostics and et cetera? And because there was some fallouts from the COVID era. So I think, you know, taking all of these amazing learnings that we've had over the last 4 years and continuing to push them and convincing the investors and the people that are involved in the industry that this is still a worthwhile market to invest in. I mean, getting to the point of care and early detection, as you alluded to earlier, to me is one of the most fundamental primary important things that we should be addressing right now in the healthcare space. I mean, we don't have to rely on labs and sending your sample across the country to get a specific test. I mean, these things can be brought to you if people are willing to take the risk and invest and develop them. So I think there's a bit of a slowdown right now, but I do think people are starting to get more excited about it again, and it's gonna ramp up. But that's kind of the challenge that we're facing right now after this kind of COVID era is, a bit of a pause in the push for the point of care diagnostic space, but I think it's going to turn back around and start ramping back up here.
And what's the number one thing you're most excited about right now?
The amount of new technology out there, I mean, again, especially in the early stage cancer detection that is, ready to get to market is incredible. I mean, there's so many problems that we can really address here with, early stage detection, getting answers to people quicker, earlier, cheaper. It's a lot of these cancer tests are extremely expensive, and people can't afford to get screened for things even if they have family history of it or whatever it may be. But if we can bring that to them at a more affordable price, that can do huge impacts for the healthcare of the world.
What do you think is the number one thing for somebody who's never heard of Arete, doesn't know the word fluidics, doesn't even know engineering? They're just out there living their lives, but these things that you're doing impacts people's lives. So what do you think is probably the first big thing that people are going to suddenly realize, oh, my life is different? Is it going to be they order something from the pharmacy, they go into their doctor? What do you think is probably the one thing out of all things, one thing that you think is really going to get it clear to them that the world has changed in a good
Yeah,
way?
I mean, I think it's really applicable to our talk. I mean, with the integration of microfluidics into wearables, there's a pretty foreseeable near-term future where you can get real life health monitoring at home at an inexpensive rate. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with, the Oris ring and
Yes.
the Apple's new technology with their Apple Watch that can give you amazing real-time monitoring of heart rates and et cetera. But there's a lot of biomarkers and
What do you
really
think's really,
valuable.
what do you think is a really big one that's going to catch on? Do you think it's diabetes? What do you think it's the a big one that's people are going to really see and feel?
Yeah, I mean, diabetes is a huge one. I mean, if I've been involved with quite a few wearables in the glucose monitoring space, and the and evolutions that have been accomplished in just a short period of time is incredible. I mean, if you look at the original insulin pumps and the original glucose monitors from even 15 years ago, I mean, they were huge, they were bulky, they were, you know, not very comfortable. Now, you barely notice that they're on you. There's no skin irritation. It's amazing. There's so much advancements in that space,
And
and leveraging those advancements into other things such as real-time oxygen monitoring of your extracellular vessels, that can give huge implications into your heart health and different biomarkers that can indicate just if you're a healthy individual. It can speed up healthcare providing. Doctors can read in real time your charts and understand how your body's behaving and do micro adjustments if you're taking any sort of medication or anything along those lines. There's just going to be so much more information available to your healthcare providers to give really applicable, real-time patient-centered care. Whereas
right.
before,
Instead of having to go in, take a lot of your day, go
yeah,
in, especially if you need to go overnight or something or spend time in there, hospital rooms and doctors are incredibly expensive. So this is, you know, could be you go online, you get something, well, you put it on.
yeah, it's wild. I mean, and then the molecular space, right? You can go to I mean, there's pretty soon here, there's not going to be very many, viral infection, bacterial infections that you won't be able to get a test in 15 minutes at your local CVS or, whatever pharmacy you have nearby. And you don't have to go to the ER room if you have a high fever anymore. You can go and, take a quick little saliva test or a blood test, and it'll tell you, these are you're not testing positive for something that you should be worried about. So, go home and rest, or yeah, we need to
Or
get you on
what,
these
or
antibiotics right
identify
away.
what you should be taking to make you
Yeah.
better rather than and early.
Yeah, exactly. So
Early being, rather than you came in and infected a bunch of people before you even knew. And yeah, so
yeah. And I
Eric,
think I think a misconception is that there's a push to sort of replace the patient care, but really it's to empower patient care. It's to give the doctors and the clinicians the tools that they need to actually make very quick, informed decisions, as opposed to waiting days for lab results or even sometimes weeks. That I have a personal story of my father spent almost 2 months in the hospital because they keep having to run these different tests, and they had to send it to a lab. It takes 5 days to get back, and it was negative. So then they run the next test, and then they wait 5 days and it's negative, and they run the next test. And he was in the hospital for 2 months. And if there was more available rapid diagnostic systems, that 2 months could have been a week potentially. So it's just an opportunity to push the envelope and really empower doctors to give more informed, quick turnaround decisions.
very good. So, uh, Jacob, enjoyed everything you've been saying. Is there something you think we haven't covered that we should talk about?
Um, no, I'm just really excited to share my experience with the Aquilius group and the members that are going to join the talk. Just really kind of portraying Arete's expertise and not just approaching problems from a singular fashion, approaching problems from a fully integrated fashion. I mean, when you create your product requirements document, you need to think about what's your regulatory path going to be, what are the human factors situation going to be, how are the electronics, the mechanics all going to integrate together seamlessly. And Arete has really built their name in the industry around providing that full seamless integration. And so I'm excited to share our experiences in the wearable development field, and hear from the rest of the speakers as well.
So, most important question, if somebody wants to know more about you, Jacob, and Arete, where is the absolute best place for them to go?
Well, our website is a great place to start. I'm on LinkedIn and I check it constantly, so please feel free to shoot me a message. Oh, I think
Biosciences.
I lost your audio for a second there.
What's your website?
Oh, it's aretebiosciences.com. So ARETE biosciences.com. And we're in Carlsbad, so if anyone's in the San Diego area, stop by anytime. Doors always open. We've got everything you could need to develop a product from start to finish. So
And our symposiums are great opportunities to one know the latest, what's going on in the both in the market but also in the field. Um, Also get to see great companies pitch. That's always very so. We have speakers, then we take a break. We have pitches. But my favorite part is where you do the eating, drinking, and networking because there's always some amazing conversations. I've yet to walk away without one or many amazing conversations. So that's one thing you don't get online. You can watch
yeah,
online, but you don't get the eating, drinking, connecting part. That's
absolutely. Yeah. And I've been to a few of the Aquilius events and they're awesome. So I'm excited to join this one as well.
very good. And go ahead and sign up. You can get more information on the Aquilius, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can see us on YouTube. And of course, even on our webpage, aquilius.com, you can go in events and see everything. We're always looking for speakers, companies to pitch, volunteers, a big community. So think about what you can do for the community and what the community can do for you. Jacob, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
And everybody, thank you for watching.